Rain hammered against the transparent dome with relentless fury, each strike reverberating through the colony like the beating of a war drum. Engineer Kalen Drax felt the vibrations climb up through the soles of his boots as he moved swiftly through the flickering shadows. The dome's internal lights surged and dimmed in nervous rhythm, the power grid stretched to its limits. He carried a bowl of water, the liquid sloshing dangerously close to the rim with every hurried step. No one else would dare to bring her water. No one else would even approach. In the far corner of the containment chamber sat Salira, the blue-skinned alien woman who had haunted Kalen's thoughts ever since he'd first seen her in chains. A short, iron-gray tether anchored her to the floor, the metal biting into her ankle. Her blindfold, once white, was now filthy with sweat and grime, sealing away her mirrored eyes that others whispered could unravel a person's mind. She didn't move as Kalen approached. Instead, she tilted her head slightly, the way someone might when catching a faint sound. He set the bowl down carefully, the faint clink of ceramic on metal echoing louder than he intended. "I brought you water," Kalen said softly. Her voice, when it came, was unexpectedly melodic, though rough from disuse. "Are you here by choice?" The sudden question caught him off guard. "What?" Salira tugged at her chain with sudden force, the metal clattering against the floor. Kalen flinched, instinctively bracing himself. Her words that followed were edged with a bitter sharpness. "I'm here so I don't kill anyone." Kalen's throat tightened, but he didn't retreat. He pushed the bowl toward her with his boot. "You came to see if you could save someone," she continued, voice low and knowing. He swallowed hard. "Everyone wants to save something," he muttered, "even if it's just themselves." From behind him, a voice hissed. "If you touch her blindfold, Drax, you won't live long enough to regret it." Kalen turned and found Chief Rourke Mercer, the security officer, standing in the doorway, his hand resting with casual menace on the grip of his sidearm. "Just bringing her water," Kalen said quickly, stepping back. "One day your charity will get us all killed," Mercer growled. "She's not some stray animal you can pity. She's something we don't understand." Before Kalen could reply, a deafening boom ripped through the dome. The ground quaked violently, knocking both men off balance. Emergency klaxons erupted, red lights spinning as metal shutters clanged shut across the corridors. "Sounds like understanding anything might be a luxury soon," Kalen muttered, brushing past Mercer. Through the observation window, Kalen caught sight of Salira. She had sensed the change, her posture rigid, her breath quickening. Slowly, with trembling fingers, she pulled the bowl toward herself. A guard sprinted by, pausing only to sneer at Kalen. "Wasting water on her, huh? She's more dangerous than the storm." "She didn't choose those chains," Kalen replied. "Maybe not," the guard shot back, adjusting his rifle. "But she chose what she did before we found her." Salira's head snapped up, blindfold still in place, but her lips curled into a snarl. Her voice carried unnervingly clear through the alarms. "You think I need saving? Or do you just want to play hero?" Before Kalen could respond, the main lights died with a groan from the generators. Backup systems clicked in, bathing the dome in a suffocating amber glow. Then came the mechanical voice of the emergency system. "Hull breach detected in Sector 7. Emergency protocols initiated." 30 minutes later, Kalen returned to the chamber. The air tasted of ozone and damp steel. Salira was standing now, the chain at her ankle granting her just enough reach to touch the wall. Her hand pressed against the trembling surface as though listening through her fingertips. Blood streaked her wrist where the cuff had cut into her skin. Kalen approached quietly, offering his shoulder for support. Salira flinched but did not push him away as the tremors deepened around them. It's going to breach, she gasped. This place wasn't built to withstand the seasons turning. Through the torn fabric of her uniform, Kaylin glimpsed scars crisscrossing her arms and back. They weren't random, deliberate, ritualistic marks, as though carved with intention. "Why don't you ask for help?" he whispered. Her reply was bitter, hollow. "Because no one forgives those who hesitate to kill." Kaylin ripped off his belt and bound it around her wrist to staunch the bleeding. She tensed but allowed the contact. The comms system sputtered alive, coughing out words between static. "Intruders, east and west sectors, 2 exits left." The message cut short in a wet choke. Salira gripped Kaylin's arm tightly, fear lacing her melodic voice for the first time. "They've come for me." The corridors buckled with noise, shattering glass, whipping rain, the distant chatter of gunfire. Kaylin dragged Salira behind a collapsed container just as armored figures emerged through the storm. Their gear was far more advanced than anything the colony's security possessed. "They're not ours," Kaylin whispered. The intruders moved methodically, checking every corner, their weapons gleaming under the amber lights. Salira's grip dug into Kaylin's arm. "Run or hide." Kaylin's mind raced, calculating escape routes and angles. "Run. If we can reach the access tunnel." "You still don't get it." She cut him off, her voice razor-sharp. "Who's the real prey here?" One of the raiders spotted them. "There!" the soldier barked, raising his weapon. Kaylin lunged forward, pulling Salira behind him. He crashed into the raider with bone-rattling force, pain exploding across his ribs. Another attacker shouted, "Take off her blindfold!" Kaylin fought desperately, fumbling at the chain around Salira's ankle, trying to free her. A blow to his temple sent him sprawling, blood filling his mouth. The raider yanked him upright by the collar, snarling into his face. "Remove the blindfold, or you both die here." Through the haze of pain, Kaylin saw Salira standing motionless, her blindfold now stained red. She tilted her head as though listening to invisible strings of sound. "3 heartbeats," she said suddenly, her voice unnervingly calm. "That's all it would take for me to kill you where you stand." The raider's grip slackened in startled confusion. "What the hell are you talking about?" he spat. Salira smiled faintly, and in that moment her expression was not comforting but terrifying. "I'm telling you how long you have to live, unless you let him go." Kaylin clung to her hand as chaos erupted around them, his thoughts fracturing between survival and the growing, terrible awareness that he might not know Salira at all. The maintenance passage was narrow, little more than a slit between steel supports and utility conduits, and it ended abruptly in a blank wall. Kaylin pressed his back against the cold metal, his breath ragged, the pounding in his chest threatening to drown out all thought. Behind them, the armored raiders advanced with the precision of predators, their boots slapping against the flooded corridor. Salira stood beside him, trembling, but not with fear. Her entire body radiated tension, like a bowstring drawn tight and ready to snap. Her chained ankle dragged, the links rattling softly in the amber glow. "They want me to kill them," she whispered. Her voice quivered with fury barely restrained. "They want me to kill you, too." Kaylin turned, pressing himself closer to her. The blindfold over her eyes was smeared with mud, blood, and oil. "Then don't give them what they want," he said, though the words felt hollow. The raiders closed in. Kaylin could hear them shouting to one another. They were being cornered, pressed tighter and tighter into the dead-end passage. Salira tilted her head toward him, and in that moment, Kaylin's mind was made. His fingers shook as he reached for the knot at the back of her head. The cloth resisted, stiff with blood, but he tore it free. Time seemed to pause. Salira's eyes opened. They weren't eyes as Kalen knew them. They were endless, liquid mirrors that caught not only his reflection but something deeper. He saw his own face twisted with fear, his choices, his guilt, all swirling within those mercurial depths. It was like staring into polished silver that rippled with infinite possibilities. Salira touched his cheek. Tears streamed down her face, each one glinting like molten silver as it ran down her blue skin. "I was afraid," she whispered. "Afraid that anyone who saw would either die or run." Kalen couldn't breathe. Couldn't think. Could only stare into the truth reflected back at him. "I'm still here," he said hoarsely. The raiders burst into the passage. Their weapons half raised, their footsteps splashing through ankle-deep water. Salira looked past Kalen, her gaze locking on them. The men froze mid-stride. Their faces, once hard with determination, softened, then twisted into horror as their own reflection stared back at them from her eyes. One dropped his rifle. Another stumbled backward, shaking his head like he could claw the vision from his mind. Kalen watched in stunned silence as the hardened soldiers, raiders trained to kill without hesitation, backed away one by one, some muttering, some silent, all unable to break free of what they saw reflected. The dome above groaned as the storm's fury tore at its failing structure. Glass rained down in jagged shards. Salira clung to Kalen's hand, her grip bruising. The chain at her ankle, fractured in the earlier struggle, finally gave way. With a sound like breaking bone, the link snapped, falling into the rising water. For the first time since Kalen had met her, Salira stood unbound. Her mirrored eyes caught the dim amber light, scattering it into something ethereal. She turned back to him, her voice soft but steady. "They feared what they couldn't control. And you feared what you couldn't save." Kalen's ribs ached as he shook his head. "I didn't even know what I was trying to save." Her lips curved into the smallest of smiles, one that actually reached her impossible eyes. "You were the first to see I wasn't a monster. Just a prison." The storm subsided hours later, leaving the world outside transformed. Rain had carved new rivers into the earth, debris from the shattered domes scattered across the ground like bones of some great beast. Kalen and Salira crouched by a stream, the water running sharp and clear. Kalen cupped his hands, drinking greedily despite the ache in his chest. Salira sat on a nearby rock, her silver-streaked eyes glowing faintly in the twilight. "They'll come looking for us," Kalen said between gulps. "Both your people, and mine." "My people are long gone from this world," Salira replied, her gaze distant. "Yours never understood what they found here." "And what did they find?" Her eyes fixed on him. "A weapon." Kalen swallowed hard. "Is that what your eyes are? A weapon?" Salira shook her head slowly. "Not a weapon. A mirror. A truth too heavy for most to carry. My kind were made to show possibilities, to reflect the paths a life might take. Few can bear the weight of seeing themselves so clearly." Night fell fast. In the dark, distant fires glowed, remnants of the ruined dome or search parties fanning out into the wilderness. Kalen struggled to his feet, pain radiating from his ribs. "We should keep moving," he said. Salira stepped close, her cool hand catching his arm. For the first time, her voice softened with something almost like hope. "Why did you help me?" Kalen hesitated. The question stopped him cold. He thought of the chains, the blindfold, the storm. He thought of her eyes, and the terrible, beautiful truth within them. "Because everyone deserves the chance to be more than what others make of them," he finally answered. Salira studied him. In her mirrored gaze he caught not just himself as he was, but as he might be, stronger, braver, unafraid. My name, she said at last, is Selira. Kalen nodded, though she already knew his. Kalen Drax. No, Selira corrected gently. That name belongs to the dome. To the past. Out here, you must become someone new. Kalen understood. There was no going back. Not to the colony, not to the dome, not to the man he'd been before tearing away her blindfold. Then we'll both become something new, he said, offering her his hand. Together they stepped into the dark forest beyond the wreckage, where towering spiral trees and drifting spores lit the night like a galaxy come alive. The forest thickened as Kalen and Selira pressed on. What began as stunted plants and broken undergrowth gave way to spiraling trees whose trunks twisted skyward like frozen whirlpools. Bioluminescent spores drifted in the air, painting the darkness with soft constellations. Each breath Kalen took carried the taste of wet bark and iron-rich soil. Selira moved as if she had walked this path before, her steps certain, her movements smooth despite the exhaustion that clung to her. Her mirrored eyes, reflecting faint silver in the glow, darted across the terrain as if reading the hidden patterns of the world itself. There's a place ahead, she murmured. A sanctuary. If it survived the storms, others like me may have gathered there. Others? Kalen stumbled over the word, his ribs aching with every inhale. He hadn't considered the possibility that more of her kind lived in hiding. How many? There were 12 of us, Selira replied. When we first encountered your people. 12 living reflections. I don't know how many remain now. The admission pressed on Kalen like a weight. 12 beings who carried mirrored eyes, capable of shattering men with truth alone, and humans had chosen to bind them with chains and blindfolds. Before he could reply, the distant whine of engines sliced through the night. Search drones? Selira's voice sharpened. We need cover. Kalen's gaze darted across the alien forest until Selira pointed to jagged crystalline structures jutting from the ground. They ran, his breath ragged, her steps unbroken. The crystals rose around them in sharp, towering formations, their mirrored surfaces reflecting ghostly fragments of themselves. They won't see us here, Selira whispered. The minerals will interfere with their scanners. Kalen's chest burned, the pain in his ribs unrelenting. He leaned against a crystal, his reflection staring back at him in fractured pieces. The drone's hum grew louder, then shifted pitch, search patterns tightening. They've spotted us, Kalen said. Selira caught his face between her palms, her cool fingers pressing against his temples. Trust me. The world bent. The crystals remained, but everything else, the hum of drones, the ache of Kalen's ribs, even the air in his lungs, faded into a half-existence. The forest seemed translucent, its edges blurred, as though they had slipped into a space between moments. What did you do? Kalen's voice echoed strangely in this liminal realm. I pulled us into reflection, Selira replied, her eyes glowing brighter. Not a place of matter, but of possibility. One of many that exist in every heartbeat. Kalen glanced at his own hands, glowing faintly silver at the edges. The sight unsettled him, but there was awe too. How long can we stay here? Not long. It consumes too much. Even as she spoke, exhaustion carved shadows into her features. Then stop, Kalen urged. Pain is temporary, she said. Capture would be permanent. Above them, through the translucent canopy of this half-world, the drones passed, their searchlights cutting harmlessly through reflections. Seconds, or eternities, later they shifted away, banking back toward the collapsed dome. Selira exhaled sharply and let go. Reality slammed back into Kalen's body, bringing with it the throb of his ribs, the chill of rain, and the gnawing ache of fatigue. Salira staggered, her blue skin pale with strain. That, Kalen gasped, was a glimpse, Salira said, leaning heavily against the crystal. A fraction of what my people perceive. When at last they reached the sanctuary, Kalen's expectations faltered. He had imagined walls, towers, fortifications. Instead, they stepped into a clearing where the very earth had been transformed into a mirror-like surface, reflecting the alien sky above with perfect clarity. At the center rose a single crystalline spire, no taller than a tree. "This is it?" Kalen asked, disappointment bleeding into his voice. Salira stepped onto the mirrored ground, reverence in every motion. "This is more than it appears." She placed her hand against the spire. Light rippled outward. The mirrored floor shimmered, catching moonlight and bending it into waves of color, silver, violet, indigo. Patterns bloomed beneath their feet like living geometry, shifting in rhythm with Salira's heartbeat. The spire vibrated, humming with a resonance Kalen felt in his bones. "It's responding to you," Kalen whispered. "No," she corrected. "It's reading me. And through me, it reads you." The display grew brighter, the patterns swirling faster, until suddenly everything stilled. Salira stiffened, her gaze fixed beyond Kalen's shoulder. He turned, and froze. They were not alone. 3 figures stood at the edge of the clearing. Like Salira, they were slender, blue-skinned, with mirrored eyes that captured the starlight. Their silence was complete, their stillness unnerving. "My kin," Salira whispered. Her voice trembled, a rare fracture in her composure. "They survived." She took a step forward, then hesitated. Kalen's chest tightened at her glance back toward him. "Go," he said softly. "They're your people. I'll wait." But Salira shook her head. She reached back, her hand seeking his. "No. We go together." The pain in his ribs flared as Kalen moved with her, each step heavier than the last. Up close, he could see subtle differences among them. The tallest, Nerith, carried scars like carved lines of lightning across his shoulders. Thalen, shorter and broad-shouldered, bore darker skin with patterns etched like rivers. Zyra, the only female among them, had delicate features but eyes that cut with razor-sharp intensity. "This is Kalen," Salira said in her people's tongue, the sounds fluid and musical though Kalen understood nothing. "He freed me." Nerith stepped forward, his mirrored gaze cold. When he spoke, Kalen was startled to hear words in his own language, the syllables strange but clear. "One act of mercy does not erase a history of cruelty. Your kind caged us, blindfolded us, made us tools." Kalen swallowed hard, refusing to look away. "I can't speak for all humans. Only for myself." "And what do you say for yourself?" asked Zyra, her voice quiet but sharp. "That I saw someone in chains," Kalen replied. "And I couldn't walk away. I still can't." Thalen let out a dry laugh. "He speaks as though choice was his to make." Salira's grip on Kalen's hand tightened. "He does," she insisted. "He always has." Nerith stepped closer, his mirrored eyes multiplying Kalen's reflection into 1,000 fractured images. "Then show me." His hands rose, pressing against Kalen's face before he could react. Agony erupted. Kalen's life unfolded in a torrent, his arrival at the dome, the hollow loneliness that drove him, the first time he saw Salira bound, the guilt of his silence, the fragile thread of courage that pushed him to act. Nothing was spared. Nothing hidden. His shame, his fear, his desperate need to matter, all of it stripped bare. When Nerith finally released him, Kalen collapsed to his knees, gasping like a drowning man. "You saw what you wanted to see," Nerys said coldly to Salira. A savior, a good man. I saw what was there. Salira countered, crouching beside Kaelin. Did you? Neritha's gaze cut into her. Or did you see only what you needed, to justify your own hope? Kaelin lifted his head, his breath unsteady. I never claimed to be a hero, he rasped. Or even good. Just someone who made a choice. And I would make it again. Zyra tilted her head, her expression softening with thought. The three Veari exchanged silent glances, communication passing without words. At last, Nerith spoke. The sanctuary has accepted you both. Whether we do remains to be seen. The dwelling they offered Kaelin was small but seamless, its walls curving in smooth arcs as though grown rather than built. The material glowed faintly from within, casting soft shadows across the room. He lay there, ribs bound in translucent film that pulsed faintly with its own energy. The ache was still there, but dulled, his body mending faster than seemed possible. Salira had left him to rest while she conferred with her kin. When she returned, Kaelin stirred awake to the cool touch of her fingers on his forehead. How long was I out? He asked. Nearly a full cycle, she said. Her mirrored eyes caught the glow of the walls. Your body needed time to heal. The fractures are mending. He sat up carefully, fingers brushing the strange film across his ribs. What is this? A healing membrane, Salira explained. Our people developed it long before your kind arrived. It accelerates repair and supports the injured tissue. It knows how to knit you back together. Kaelin exhaled slowly. Your people are helping me. Does that mean they've accepted me? Salira's gaze turned cautious. They've agreed not to harm you. Acceptance will take longer. Before he could answer, Salira extended her hand. Come. I want to show you who we really are. She led him through the sanctuary. Other Veari watched from a distance, their mirrored eyes reflecting Kaelin's every step. Some faces showed suspicion, others curiosity. None spoke. They stopped before a domed structure half buried in the earth. Salira placed her palm against its surface, and the wall rippled aside like liquid. Inside, reflections bloomed across every surface, walls, floor, ceiling, stretching outward in infinite regression. At the center rose crystalline spires humming faintly, vibrating with a rhythm that reminded Kaelin of voices. This is our memory chamber, Salira said, where we preserve what must never be lost. As she touched one of the spires, it lit from within, pulsing with her heartbeat. Images spilled into the chamber, vast crystalline cities glittering under alien suns, Veari walking with purpose, their mirrored eyes glowing as they recorded the world around them. Kaelin's breath caught. This was your civilization, before humans. Before humans, yes, Salira said, but not before fear. The images shifted. War machines stormed the crystal cities. Explosions tore through gleaming towers. Blue-skinned bodies lay shattered in the streets. The Alliance of Three decided we were too dangerous to exist freely. They called us weapons. They tried to erase us. The vision shifted again. Human explorers appeared, their faces lit with awe at the alien ruins. But awe turned quickly to fear. Kaelin saw chains, blindfolds, experiments, the first Veari imprisoned by human hands. Kaelin's throat tightened. Why show me this? Because you chose to help me without knowing what I was, Salira replied. Now you must understand what that choice means. He met her mirrored eyes, his reflection shimmering inside them. Then I'll need to know everything. No half-truths. If I'm going to stand with you, I can't be blind. Salira's lips curved faintly. Fair terms. For many cycles, Kaelin learned. He absorbed fragments of their language, gestures, philosophy. He saw how their eyes preserved history, not as memory alone, but as living, replayable truth. In return, he spoke of humanity, of Earth, of a species stumbling forward with equal measures of brilliance and brutality. Some, like Zyra, listened with sharp interest. Others, like Thalen, remained cold and distant. Through it all, Selira remained his anchor. Their bond deepened, a connection both fragile and unbreakable. But peace did not last. Engines roared above the sanctuary, louder than drones. Kalen and Selira raced to the clearing, where the Veari had already gathered. Craft descended, some bearing colony insignia, others painted matte black with no markings at all. Armed figures poured out, forming a perimeter. "They've found us," Kalen said grimly. Trickles of panic rippled through the Veari. Thalen snarled. "You brought them here." "No," Kalen countered. "They would have come regardless." "Running isn't living," Zyra snapped. "Perhaps it is time we stood our ground." The unmarked craft's ramp lowered. From it emerged Director Corvin, the colony administrator, flanked by soldiers. His face was pale, his voice sharp. "Kalen Drax, you've led us quite a chase." Kalen stepped forward, hands raised. "I came to talk. They're not weapons. They're survivors." Corvin's lip curled. "Survivors who can alter perception and tear apart the human mind. You expect me to trust that power? The same way we trust ourselves with nuclear fire, with viruses, with machines that think," Kalen shot back. "Power doesn't define intent." Corvin sneered. "You're naive. They will be contained. Or eliminated." He gave Kalen 5 minutes to convince them to surrender. Then he would act. Kalen returned to the circle of Veari, his heart pounding. "They won't negotiate. They'll attack. Then we defend ourselves," Thalen said. "At what cost?" Kalen demanded. "It would be a massacre." Selira's expression shifted. "There is another way. Riskier but truer." The others argued, voices sharp and urgent, but finally Nerith nodded. "Explain." Selira looked to Kalen. "A mass link. A shared consciousness between them and us. We show them who we are, what we've suffered, what we might become. They cannot deny what they see." Kalen understood instantly. "You need an anchor. Someone to bridge both sides." Selira's eyes softened. "Yes. You." Fear twisted in his chest, but he answered without hesitation. "Then I'll do it." When Corvin's countdown ended, Kalen stood at the center of the mirrored circle. The 7 surviving Veari formed a heptagon around him, their mirrored eyes glowing. Soldiers advanced, weapons primed. Corvin raised his hand. "Take them." Selira's voice rang out. "We choose truth." Light erupted. Kalen's mind stretched beyond itself, touching Selira first, then Nerith, Zyra, Thalen, all of them, until his thoughts bled outward into the soldiers themselves. He felt Corvin's shock, the soldiers' confusion, their training fracturing as alien memory poured into them. Kalen showed them everything. The fall of the Veari, the chains, the blindfolds, the prison of fear. But he also showed their purpose, the witnesses of possibility, the keepers of truth. He let humanity see itself reflected, every choice branching in silver webs, every burden laid bare. Time stretched. Seconds became eternities. Kalen nearly lost himself, identity fragmenting under the flood. But Selira's presence anchored him, her voice within his mind steady and calm. And then it ended. The soldiers lowered their weapons. Some dropped to their knees. Their eyes were wet with tears or wide with awe. One whispered hoarsely, "They're not what we thought." Corvin stood trembling at the edge of the circle. His authority was shattered. "What have you done to us?" Salira's answer was simple. "We showed you the truth." Silence rippled across the battlefield. Then weapons clattered to the ground, one by one. For the first time, Kalen believed coexistence might be possible. Not victory, not yet. But a beginning. When Kalen next woke, he lay inside the sanctuary dwelling, Salira's cool hand entwined with his. Her mirrored eyes reflected him, not as he was, but as he could be. "You are the bridge now," she said. "Between human and Veari." Kalen squeezed her hand gently, understanding the weight of what she meant. And for the first time since tearing away her blindfold, he welcomed that weight. And so ends our journey with Kalen, Drax, and Salira, the engineer and the alien whose mirrored eyes could change the fate of two species. What began as a single act of defiance, offering water to someone in chains, spiraled into a story of survival, truth, and the fragile hope of coexistence. The Veari were never the monsters humans believed them to be. They were reflections, showing those around them the truths they feared to face. Kalen's courage wasn't in fighting or in running, it was in choosing to see, and in refusing to look away when confronted with the impossible. This tale reminds us that sometimes the bravest act isn't swinging a weapon, but daring to bridge two worlds. If you enjoyed this rewritten sci-fi story, remember to subscribe for more narratives like this one. Hit the like button if you want to see us continue exploring strange new worlds. And share this video with friends who love science fiction as much as you do. Together, we'll keep building these worlds, one reflection at a time.